Nicolas Hulscher is the epidemiology director at the McCullough Foundation, and he joins us now. Please tell us, Nicolas, when you see these news stories of a suburban area or an apartment building birthing a biolab in someone's garage or in their spare bedroom, what's your reaction?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me. And it's very worrisome, to say the least. These so-called basement biolabs run by these rogue operators or possibly individuals involved with the Chinese Communist Party can result in catastrophic pathogen leaks. And these two in particular, this Reedley Las Vegas biolab complex was thankfully seized, as we saw last week and then a few years ago in Reedley, California. But most recently in Las Vegas, this individual appeared to have a locked garage filled with mysterious liquids and vials we don't really know exactly what they were as of this time. But unfortunately, individuals did go inside of that garage and they became very sick. So what we need to do now is we have to identify where else are these basement biolabs.
When we find one, Nicolas, what tells us, what are the clues that inform us whether this is just someone who's a science enthusiast or whether it's someone who intends to do us harm?
We could suspect it's somebody that wants to do harm if they have highly lethal pathogens contained in their laboratories that have no safety guards at all. And so, like in the Reedley Biolab in California, there was a freezer labeled Ebola. They had humanized mice that were modified to kind of tell what happens when you infect a human. They had SARS-CoV-2. They had all sorts of bad pathogens. So if we see that, pathogens that can cause mass harm, we could suspect possible nefarious intentions.
And if a pathogen like Ebola emerged out of one of these garage biolabs, what would be the impact to surrounding communities?
Well, the impact would be catastrophic because most of these appear to be in large population centers. And so we wouldn't know it leaked out until a large number of people became sick and it began to spread in the community. Now, what we need to be concerned about is gain of function research in these laboratories that can modify these pathogens to better infect humans and become highly transmissible, and they're not found in nature. And so that poses the highest risk. And a recent study came out. They found there is over 3,600 biolaboratories across the globe, BSL-3 and BSL-4. And the United States houses over a little less than half of the global biolabs. And so this is very disturbing. And one last thing, 73% of these biolabs, we don't know their locations or what pathogens they're working with.
Well, I am interested in how these homemade labs are even found. And often times we see them found almost by accident because something else is being reviewed. I think of other things that people conceal. If someone had a home marijuana grow, you might know that because you could smell it. If someone had a home meth lab, you might know that because you would see a spike in the energy bill from cooking meth. If someone has like a home biolab, what are we even supposed to look for to catch them?
You usually have to look for, it's going to be very hard to identify, somebody who's been doing this for many decades. They will easily be able to hide it. And, I guess one way to figure out is if you do notice any strange smells, toxic smells coming from certain areas or transporting strange vials or liquids, and you identify them doing so. But again, that's going to be very difficult. That's the problem with these labs.
It's also the reason why we should have really strict controls on the utilization and study of these pathogens, wherever it exists. A lot of that happens within the state university system. Do you think a lot of these university labs have sufficient controls on the pathogens they're handling so some grad student doesn't walk out with a vial of Ebola?
Unfortunately, it doesn't appear they have adequate safety controls. We have to remember since 2001, over 300 laboratory leaks have occurred in biolabs among universities and even government-run biolabs. And so Despite biosafety level 3 and these high containment biolaboratories, these pathogens can get out. And so that's over 5 lab leaks a year. And some of these resulted in fatalities. And then, yeah, so it can happen, and that poses a significant danger.
It definitely can happen. My wonder now is whether it's already happened, like a bunch. You know, I mean, we happen to find these labs and these pathogens, but like we have had someone with Ebola in this country. We've had bird flu, swine flu. Is there any possibility that some of these ailments and pathogens that have swept across America might not have been all that organic in getting here or being released?
Yeah, we actually published a peer-reviewed paper finding that the H5N1 bird flu crisis that began in 2021 and is still ongoing among mammals in the United States, cows and widespread in some chicken flocks, that may have been due to gain-of-function activities at the USDA Southeast Poultry Research Laboratory. They were doing serial passage gain-of-function research on avian influenza H5N1 viruses. And so, yeah, you know, some of these, it appears they're not organic.
What can we do to protect ourselves and be more resilient?
Well, to protect ourselves, first of all, it's going to have to be some federal action here to significantly expand the oversight of these laboratories. And honestly, there needs to be a complete ban on gain-of-function research completely. Nobody should be doing it. Nobody should be housing modified pathogens that don't exist in nature, that can better infect humans. Those should not exist. And honestly, there should be a coordinated effort here to wipe those out of these labs.
Some say that research has to exist to develop cures and remedies. What's your response to that argument?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any circumstance where gain-of-function research has actually benefited humanity. In fact, we just saw with SARS-CoV-2 that came out of Wuhan, you know, what, millions have been killed, injured. I mean, this was a disaster, and that same type of thing will easily happen again. But this time, and now we're suspecting Nipah virus. They're modifying the Nipah viruses, and that we do not want that to get out of a biolab.
What would that do if a modified Nipah virus were released?
If a modified Nipah virus got out, right now it has a 40 to 70% case fatality rate, so it kills a large number of people. Now, if they're toying it with it in the lab, it could not only have a high fatality rate, but they could make it highly infectious and transmissible among humans, and that could result in literal catastrophe. And so that's why, you know, we really have to start paying attention to this.
Nicolas Hulscher, the director of epidemiology at the McCullough Foundation, you have filled my nightmares for weeks. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Thanks for having me.